Yes? No doubt. That is a long tale. Some pieces of the tale I gave when we escaped. But there is more, yes. As you probably already know, the King of Shadows was once a creation, a guardian of Ilfan. By tapping into the power of the Weave, the source of all magic in Faerun, Ilfan sought to make an invincible protector to shield its borders. Yes, Ilfan's enemies, the Netherese, in their quest for power ended up disrupting the Weave. The Guardian relied on the Weave to sustain itself. Without it, it was forced to seek another source of power in order to continue to protect Ilfan. It found a darker source of magic, the Shadow Weave, and tapping into it, transformed the Guardian of Ilfan into something else, the King of Shadows. A man, perhaps. Who it was, I was never able to determine. But whoever it was, he was willing to give up himself to protect his empire. Give up his sense of self, his identity. It is no small sacrifice. Perhaps he saw the rightness of his actions, and there was no way to see what harm would come from it. There is a certain sympathy I have for such a man, for someone willing to make that choice. He cast away his family, his ties to his people, and he ended up suffering for it while attempting to save them. Such a motivation is not hard to understand. Even more now, to see the King of Shadows reviled for what he has done, and knowing that at its core, he sought only to protect the people under his care. Now, its people are gone, and even knowing its failure, it still seeks to protect its empire and, most importantly, itself. If it frees itself, it will seek to destroy anything that threatens it. You first, then I. Then it will destroy all civilization on the Sword Coast where its former empire lay. And from then on, I do not know what it will do. But the coast shall become as the mare is now, lifeless. Its only people raised from the dead to become the shades of the new Ilfan Empire. No doubt. Yes, I imagine the history books have little to say on the matter, aside from my many misdeeds, which is how I wished it. The Jarrow family was once part of the highest nobility of Neverwinter. When growing up, I displayed a certain aptitude for magic, especially the magic tied to the lower planes. With little training, I was able to do spells well beyond my years, and well beyond any training I received in the academies and elsewhere. Gain it. With the lower planes, the power is always there. It just needs a focus and the will to control it. In my case, it did not take long to master that power. The greater discipline came in using it sparingly so that few could see. When one displays such power, it does not grant you freedom. It becomes a cage and makes you a target. You will be constantly beset by the problems of others, who will see your power as an excuse to compensate for the lack of theirs. That is never a position I want to be in, nor a philosophy I wish to encourage in others. Nevertheless, I displayed enough talent to be accepted by the Neverwinter court, to be the Jester Mage. To make my intentions plain, it was a position of convenience and opportunity, one of many. The position allowed me to obtain access to many of the secrets of the Neverwinter, as well as free access to the Academy libraries, their vaults, and the court records. Also, I thought that perhaps my position might give me a greater voice when attempting to convince others of threats that beset us. But that proved to be an ill-founded conclusion. Oh yes, I had several teachers. Many are dead now through unfortunate circumstances, but not by my hand, I assure you. I sought teaching not only in Neverwinter and Waterdeep, but also across the plains from infernal allies, and even from the Arcane Brotherhood in Luskan. Yes, provided one can stomach their politics, they have a vast library of knowledge to draw upon. And I also wish to study their workings from within, in case I needed to defeat them one day. Oddly enough, it was by walking these dark paths that I saw the greater threats we faced. Shadows were growing stronger around the Mayor of the Dead Men. This was due to the growing power of the King of Shadows. I attempted to warn the court of Neverwinter of this, but they were too busy vying for power and holding blades to each other's throats to listen. So I sought allies elsewhere, amongst demons and devils, and even the Githyanki. And I used all the power I had, which was considerable. And by waging a war, by the nature of my allies, I became something others feared. I even gained the name of my enemy, as you proved when you first encountered me in my haven. To think you believed me to be our mutual enemy. The irony runs deep, indeed. Was I ever fighting you? All I recall is you tripping across my path and my servants. Perhaps if you had sought another means to make your intentions known, we could have coordinated our efforts and none of this need ever have happened. Is it? Perhaps some perspective will enlighten you. You trampled like a fool child through ruins and libraries, disrupting my search, disrupting my goals. You should have stayed out of affairs you had no knowledge of. Indeed. And for the sake of amusement, perhaps you can tell me what you would have done. I concede there is some truth in what you say, but my actions, in light of Neverwinter's view on my goals, I believe were perfectly understandable. Still, you have given me something to think about. No doubt. I have only recently escaped my imprisonment in the lower plains, and since then, I have fought to re-establish my stronghold and gather my forces, which you have ruined with your carelessness. I had assistance from the Arcane Brotherhood, of all organizations. One among them sought information on the King of Shadows and freed me, but they were careless, and I was easily able to slip free of them once summoned. From there, I was also able to rectify certain injustices in Neverwinter as well, before beginning my campaign against the King of Shadows anew. A man named Black Garius summoned me, a man I suspect you already have some history with. I think he sought some means by which to control the King of Shadows, a foolish quest. But he has no doubt already paid the price for such a goal. The lower plains has many cells and many agonies. At the close of the war against the King of Shadows, I was cast there. Not yet dead, but soon wishing that I was. Fortunately, in those infernal prisons, I gained strength and tolerance for pain. No doubt. How any of my kin managed to survive is a mystery to me. It seems the Jero line is more resilient than I thought. But yes, I thought the Jero line had been ended in the war with the King of Shadows. During the battles that waged near the Mare, near Highcliff, there was so much chaos, I thought what remained of my family was lost. Now, they truly are. No. At times, I thought I was fighting for my family. But I fought because it was the right thing to do. The King of Shadows had to be stopped, but that some of my blood had survived because of what I did. It is a new thought. I thought I had lost them all. And now, I wonder what their lives were like. I did not wish to kill her, you know. I would have liked to have known her. But I would like that. I see. It seems she lived much in the short time left to her. I thank you for sharing her experiences with me. If time permits, I may go see this farm of hers and see if anything else remains. No doubt. The shards, including the one lodged within you, are part of the Sword of Gith. Its history is a tiresome one. Ask the Githzerai if you would know more. She could no doubt recite countless metaphors concerning Gith and Zerthaman. The importance of the shards is that once recast into a blade, it is likely to have the power to harm the King of Shadows, and as such is vital to our quest. I do not know. Perhaps their extraplanar origin is what makes the King of Shadows vulnerable to them. There may be some secret in their creation that is unknown to me that may make them effective as well. Regardless, the King of Shadows is vulnerable to them, and to the Sword of Gith most of all. No doubt. I did, but before I could reach the other statues, the Shadow Reaver arrived, and even with my allies, I could not stand against him. Now each of us bears the necessary pieces of the ritual, and together, we are the only ones who can harm him. Like it or not, we need each other if we are to succeed. If the Githzerai did not already explain, the ritual is designed to unmake the Ilfarn Guardian, which the King of Shadows once was. And still is, in part. But the Guardian is a shell, a vessel for what the King of Shadows has become. When it drew life from the Shadow Weave long ago, it became something else, something greater. Still, its outer skin is that of the Guardian. We must break that armor first, and once shattered, then we may strike at his essence. We must do it within the King of Shadows' fortress, as near to his heart as possible. Within the Mare of Dead Men, or the Merdelaine as the Druidess calls it. There is where we must go. Yes, I know. I do not know how to defeat such a shield yet, but we must find a way. To do that will require the Sword of Gith, which you carry with you. The silver swords of the Githyanki are the only weapons I have seen that have harmed the King of Shadows, and the Sword of Gith is the mightiest of such weapons. That fact did not escape me. We will need to remake it if we are to succeed. No, but it is something we must discover, and soon. I do not believe reforging the sword will require all the shards. But as I have never done such a thing, I do not know for certain. The Githzerai who travels with us may know more. In that, she may have some use. No. I do not know. Greater than nothing, I suspect. But it is a chance we must take. The ritual I have gained seems to allow me to create a web of light. Should the King of Shadows split his form into many shadows, such a web is useful. Any shadow spawned from him that enters it will be caged, unable to get out. While such a power has a limited use outside his fortress, it will be necessary for us to beat him. If the Githzerai did not already explain, the ritual, but the god, still its outer skin is that of the god, no doubt. I see little harm in telling you now. I think there is some measure of truth